The hostage situation. The Frontier Colony Research Station floated at the edge of charted space, a collection of modules and laboratories where xenobiologists, engineers, and dreamers studied the unknown. Lieutenant Ava, Tempest, Cross stood at the arrival dock in civilian clothes, scanning the crowd for a familiar face. Blue skin caught her eye immediately. Dr. Nira Kelvin emerged from the crowd, her Lyrian features striking even among the diverse species populating the station. Silver markings traced elegant patterns down her arms, marking her as high-caste scholar in Lyrian society. But what made Ava's breath catch wasn't the exotic beauty, it was the genuine smile that transformed Nira's face when their eyes met. "You came," Nira said, her voice carrying that musical accent Ava had been hearing in her head for 6 months. "I promised I would." Ava stepped closer, hyper-aware of the public space preventing her from pulling Nira into the embrace she'd been imagining since their last encrypted video call. "Your research station is impressive. Wait until you see my lab." Nira's eyes sparkled. "I've made breakthroughs in cross-species cellular adaptation that—" The explosion cut her off. Alarms shrieked through the station as concussion waves rocked the docking area. Ava's combat instincts activated instantly, assessing threats, cataloging exits, positioning herself between Nira and danger before conscious thought engaged. "Down," she ordered, pulling Nira behind a cargo container as weapons fire erupted. Mercenaries, 8 that Ava could immediately identify, were moving through the station with military precision. Professional operation, not random pirates. They were after something specific. Everyone on the ground. The lead merc, human, ex-military by his movement patterns, fired a warning shot. "This doesn't have to get messy. We're here for data, not bodies. Cooperate and you live." Ava analyzed. She was unarmed, in civilian clothes, and surrounded by terrified researchers who'd never seen combat. Her SEAL training screamed to act, but tactical assessment said wait, gather information, look for opportunity, don't reveal capabilities until necessary. The mercs herded everyone into the main research lab, 30 hostages including Ava and Nira. Through the reinforced windows, Ava could see a mercenary ship docked at an auxiliary port. Escape route secured. Professional. "Station security is locked out," one merc reported. "We've got maybe 15 minutes before a response force arrives. Then we work fast." The leader gestured to 2 techs who began downloading data from the lab's main servers. "Get the Lyrian xenobiology files. That's what we're being paid for." Nira's research. Of course. Her work on cross-species cellular adaptation was worth billions to the right buyer, medical applications, military enhancements, corporate patents. Ava should have anticipated this risk. External comm systems crackled to life. "This is Captain Jake Hartwell, Colonial Marines Quick Reaction Force. We've secured the perimeter. Release the hostages and surrender." The merc leader laughed. "How about no? We've got 30 civilians including several high-value researchers. You breach, they die. We want safe passage off station and a 3-hour head start. You'll get your hostages back alive." Through the window, Ava could see Marines taking positions, good tactics, professional discipline. Jake was setting up a hostage negotiation by the book. Beside her, Nira whispered, "Ava, I'm sorry. This is my research thereafter. You shouldn't be. Not your fault." Ava squeezed her hand once, then began signing in military tactical language, knowing Nira wouldn't understand but hoping to convey calm confidence. Nira's eyes widened slightly. Whatever Ava thought she was hiding, Nira was sharp enough to recognize training when she saw it. One of the younger mercs, nervous, trigger-happy, noticed Ava's too calm demeanor. "You. The brunette. Why aren't you scared?" Ava immediately adjusted her body language, letting fear show in her expression, making herself smaller. "I am scared. Please, I just came to visit a friend. I don't want any trouble." "Then stay quiet." But his eyes lingered on her suspiciously. Outside, Jake was negotiating, buying time for his team to prepare a breach. Standard protocol. But Ava could see the setup. The Marines were positioned wrong. The breach point they were planning would give the mercs 3 seconds of warning, enough time to execute hostages. She caught the lead merc studying her through narrowed eyes. Combat operators recognized each other, even in civilian clothes. The way she held herself, the tactical assessment in her eyes, the controlled breathing, he was starting to suspect. "You," he said, pointing at Ava. "Come here." Mira's grip on her hand tightened in fear. Ava gently disengaged, standing slowly, hands visible and non-threatening. "What's your name?" the merc demanded. "Ava. Ava Cross. I'm a friend of Dr. Kelvin. I'm just visiting." "You move like military." His weapon was trained on her center mass. "What's your background?" "I was in the Navy," Ava said, keeping her voice uncertain. "But just supply corps. Desk work, mostly. I'm nothing special." The lie hung in the air. Mira was watching with wide eyes, finally understanding that her friend was much more than she'd revealed. The merc studied her for another moment, then made a decision that would prove catastrophic for his entire crew. "Then you'll be my example. Show these people what happens when they don't cooperate." He grabbed Ava's arm roughly, pulling her toward the center of the lab, his weapon moving to execute her. Through the window, Ava caught Jake's eye as the Marines prepared to breach. She gave him a subtle shake of her head. "Don't. I've got this. Time to stop pretending." The merc never saw it coming. The revelation. The moment the mercenary's grip tightened on Ava's arm to position her for execution, her training overrode everything else. 12 years of SEAL conditioning, thousands of hours of close-quarters combat drills, muscle memory honed through operations across a dozen hostile worlds, all of it activated simultaneously. She moved. Her hand trapped the merc's wrist at a specific angle, using his own grip against him. Simultaneous strike to his radial nerve cluster, his fingers spasmed open, releasing the weapon. Before it even hit the floor, Ava had pivoted inside his guard, delivered a precision elbow strike to his solar plexus that dropped him gasping, and caught his falling pistol. Elapsed time, 1.4 seconds. The other mercs were still processing what happened when Ava was already moving. 3 rounds, 3 targets, knee shots, non-lethal but completely incapacitating. The remaining 4 mercs scrambled for cover, but Ava had already assessed the lab's layout, the hostages' positions, optimal firing angles. "Hostages down," she commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority that made 30 terrified researchers hit the floor without question. The Marines breached 2 seconds later, flowing through the door with practiced precision, and stopped short when they found Ava standing in the center of the lab, weapon trained on the one remaining conscious merc, 4 others groaning on the floor with expertly placed disabling shots. "Clear," Ava announced calmly. 4 wounded, need medical. 1 in custody. No hostage casualties. Captain Jake Hartwell entered, his Marines securing the room with professional efficiency, but his eyes were fixed on Ava, taking in her combat stance, the weapon handling, the way she positioned herself to maintain tactical advantage on all entry points. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. Ava engaged the weapon's safety and set it down slowly. "Lieutenant Ava Cross, Naval Special Warfare Development Group, SEAL Team 7. She pulled out her military ID, still valid despite being on leave. "Currently on medical leave, sir. Sorry for the confusion." Jake's expression cycled through disbelief, embarrassment, and grudging respect. "You're a SEAL. And you just handled a hostage situation solo while my Marines were staging a breach? With respect, Captain, your breach point was suboptimal. They'd have had 3 seconds warning. Casualties were probable." Ava's tone was professional, not condescending. "I had positional advantage and element of surprise. Seemed more efficient." "Efficient," Jake repeated, shaking his head. He moved to secure the prisoners while his Marines swept the rest of the station. "We're going to need a full debrief, Lieutenant." "Of course, sir." The next 2 hours were controlled chaos, sweeping the station for remaining threats. There were 3 more mercs trying to reach their ship. Jake's team captured them efficiently, securing evidence, medical treatment for wounded mercenaries, and detailed tactical debriefing. Ava worked seamlessly with the Marines, her SEAL training making her a natural force multiplier. Throughout it all, she was aware of Nira watching from the sidelines, being checked by medics, giving statements to investigators, but always with those violet eyes tracking Ava's movements. Finally, as station security established lockdown and Jake's team secured the merc ship, Ava found a moment to approach Nira in her lab. The Lyrian scientist was staring at data screens, but clearly not seeing them. "Nira," Ava began. "You're a Navy SEAL." Nira's voice was carefully neutral. "One of the most elite military operators in human space. And you never thought to mention this?" "I was on leave. Trying to be someone other than Lieutenant Cross for a few weeks." Ava moved closer, but Nira stepped back. "I didn't lie about who I am. I just didn't lead with my job title. You let me think you were a naval supply officer." Nira's blue skin flushed darker with emotion. "For 6 months, we've been talking, getting closer, and you never told me you're a trained killer." The words hung between them like a blade. "Is that what you think I am?" Ava's voice was quiet but carried an edge. "Just a killer. I don't know what you are." Nira's patterns flared with distress. "I watched you take down 5 armed mercenaries like it was nothing. You moved like violence was choreography." "That's not the person I thought I was." She stopped, struggling with the word. "Falling for." Ava felt something crack in her chest. "Then who did you think you were falling for?" "Someone gentle. Someone who listened when I talked about cellular structures for hours. Someone who sent me poetry and asked about my research and made me feel." Nira's voice broke. "Made me feel seen, not as an alien scientist, but as a person." "That is me," Ava said, moving closer despite Nira's defensive posture. "Everything we shared was real. The poetry, the conversations, the connection, all of it. The SEAL training is what I do, Nira. It's not all I am. But it's what you're good at." Nira gestured at the lab where hostages had been held less than 3 hours ago. "Combat. Violence. That comes naturally to you. You know what terrifies me more than any combat situation?" Ava's voice dropped to something raw and vulnerable. "This. Standing here, trying to convince someone I care about that I'm more than my training. Connection terrifies me, Nira. Opening up, being vulnerable, that's harder than any mission I've ever run." Nira was silent, her patterns shifting through colors Ava was still learning to read. "I came here because you matter to me," Ava continued. "Not as a SEAL, not on orders, but because for 6 months you've been the person I think about when I wake up. You've been the reason I survived recovery from my last injury. You've been..." She swallowed hard. "You've been hope that maybe I could be something other than just an operator." "But you are an operator," Nira said softly. "Watching you today, that wasn't something you learned. That's integrated into who you are at a cellular level. The way you assessed threats, moved with absolute confidence, commanded the room. That's authentic Ava, isn't it?" "Yes. No point denying it. That's part of who I am. But so is the woman who sends you poetry. Who listens to you explain xenobiology even though half of it goes over my head. Who looks forward to your messages more than mission briefings." Ava took a chance, stepping fully into Nira's space. "I'm both, Nira. Warrior and woman. Operator and someone who wants to be close to you. Can you accept both?" Nira's patterns shifted to something softer: uncertainty, hope, desire. In Lyrian culture, we don't separate warrior and scholar the way humans do. Both are valued, both are necessary. I understand the duality intellectually. But emotionally. She reached up, placing her cooler hand against Ava's face. Emotionally, I was falling for one version of you. Now I need to understand the whole person. Then ask me anything, Ava said. No more secrets. No more omissions. Complete honesty. They talked for hours, about Ava's training, her missions, the ones she could discuss, the cost of being elite, the loneliness of operations, the guilt of survival when teammates didn't make it. Neera shared her own fears. Watching Ava fight had been both terrifying and captivating, seeing the person she cared about transform into something lethal yet still controlled, still precise, still fundamentally Ava. I thought I was going to watch you die, Neera admitted finally, her voice breaking. When he grabbed you, I thought. Ava pulled her close, and Neera collapsed against her, the fear and adrenaline and relief finally hitting. I'm here. I'm safe. We're both safe. Because you're exceptional at violence, Neera whispered against her shoulder. Because I'm trained to protect people I care about, Ava corrected. There's a difference. When Neera looked up, her violet eyes held something new, not fear, but understanding mixed with desire that had been building for 6 months and finally had nowhere to hide. The kiss was inevitable, urgent and desperate, fueled by almost loss and honest revelation. Neera's cooler lips against Ava's warmth, the taste of relief and want and 6 months of restrained attraction finally unleashed. They moved toward Neera's quarters, shedding barriers and clothes with equal urgency. Ava traced the bioluminescent patterns on Neera's blue skin, learning what made her gasp. Neera explored the scars on Ava's body, each one a story, a battle, evidence of survival. They made love with the intensity of two people who'd been circling each other and finally found the courage to collide, gentle and fierce, vulnerable and passionate, two different species finding perfect synchronization. Afterward, tangled together in Neera's bunk, Ava traced patterns on blue skin while Neera mapped scars on tan. I'm still processing, Neera admitted. The cognitive dissonance of gentle you and warrior you. Join the club, Ava said with a soft laugh. I've been processing that for 12 years. Still haven't figured out the balance. Maybe that's the point, Neera mused. Maybe balance isn't about being one or the other. Maybe it's about integration, accepting that warriors can be gentle, that scholars can be fierce, that we're all more complex than simple labels. Ava kissed her forehead. When did you get so wise? I've been wise. You just noticed because you stopped hiding. They fell asleep like that, the SEAL and the xenobiologist, the warrior and the scholar, proving that the strongest connections were forged not despite differences but because of them. And outside, Captain Jake Hartwell filed his after-action report, making sure to note, Lieutenant Cross's tactical intervention saved approximately 30 civilian lives. Recommend commendation. Also recommend whoever assigned her desk job duty in her cover story needs better intel, woman's clearly born for combat. But Ava had found something worth more than commendations. She'd found someone who saw all of her, warrior and woman, and chose to stay anyway. New understanding. 2 weeks after the attack, Frontier Colony had returned to its usual rhythm of research and discovery, though with significantly upgraded security protocols. Ava stood in the station's security center, reviewing tactical plans with Jake and his Marine unit. Overlapping fields of fire here, she pointed to a junction on the holographic display. And your response time from the barracks to the research wing is 43 seconds. I'd recommend prepositioning a fire team in this auxiliary bay during high-traffic shifts. Jake studied the recommendations with grudging admiration. You know, when Command told me we'd have a SEAL consultant for 2 weeks, I expected someone to swoop in, tell us we're doing everything wrong, and disappear. Instead, you actually understand our constraints. Marines and SEALs have more in common than either wants to admit, Ava said with a slight smile. We're both door kickers at heart. Just different doors. Fair enough. Jake saved the tactical updates. So, you're cleared to return to active duty. When do you ship out? Ava hesitated. I requested extended leave. Command approved another month. Jake's knowing look made her defensive. It's medical extension. I'm still recovering from being completely healed 3 days ago according to the station medical officer. Jake interrupted. Cross, I've seen you run combat drills with my Marines. You're in peak condition. This is about the Lyrian scientist. Dr. Kelvin, Ava corrected, but didn't deny it. Good for you. Jake's tone was genuine. Operators like us, we're not great at the relationship thing. If you found someone worth staying for, don't screw it up by leaving too soon. That evening, Ava found Neera in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays of cellular structures that looked like alien galaxies. The Lyrian scientist was so focused she didn't notice Ava's approach until arms wrapped around her waist from behind. You're going to give me a heart attack, Neera said, but leaned back into the embrace. Your cardiac system is significantly more robust than humans. You'll survive. Ava kissed her neck, right where silver markings traced elegant patterns. How's the research? Fascinating. The mercenary attack actually helped. Their attempt to steal my data made me realize I need to publish soon, before someone else tries corporate espionage. Neera turned in Ava's arms. But you didn't come here to discuss cellular adaptation. What's wrong? How do you know something's wrong? Because your left eyebrow does this tiny thing when you're worried about something. And you've been doing it for 3 days. Neera touched the spot gently. Talk to me. Ava led her to the small couch in the corner of the lab, their spot for late-night conversations. I'm cleared for active duty. My leave extension runs out in 4 weeks. Oh. Neera's patterns dimmed slightly. So you're going back? Eventually, yes. Being a SEAL isn't just what I do, it's who I am. My team needs me. There are missions only we can handle. Ava took Neera's cooler hands in hers. But I don't want this to end. Us. Whatever this is. Long-distance relationship between a SEAL and a xenobiologist. Neera's laugh was slightly bitter. I'll be here doing research while you're on classified missions I can't know about, never knowing if you're safe, wondering if each goodbye might be permanent. I know it's asking a lot. It's asking everything, Neera interrupted. But here's what I've learned about you, Ava Cross, you don't ask for anything lightly. If you're asking me to wait, to trust, to build something despite the distance and danger and uncertainty, you must believe it's worth it. I do. Ava's voice was fierce with conviction. You're worth it. This is worth it. Then ask me properly. Neera's patterns shifted to challenge. Not as Lieutenant Cross requesting mission parameters. As Ava, asking Neera. It's asking everything, Neera interrupted. But here's what I've learned about you, Ava Cross, you don't ask for anything lightly. If you're asking me to wait, to trust, to build something despite the distance and danger and uncertainty, you must believe it's worth it. I do. Ava's voice was fierce with conviction. You're worth it. This is worth it. Then ask me properly. Neera's patterns shifted to challenge. Not as Lieutenant Cross requesting mission parameters. As Ava, asking Neera. Ava took a breath, dropping every wall, every defense. Neera Kelvin, will you be with me? Knowing that I'll deploy on missions I can't discuss, that I might come back different, that there will be long stretches where communication is impossible. Knowing that loving a SEAL means accepting fear as part of the package. Will you be with me? Neera countered. Knowing that my research might take me to dangerous locations, that I'll be absorbed in work for days at a time, that I'm Lyrian and you're human and every xenophobic asshole in the galaxy will have opinions about us. Knowing that loving a scientist means accepting obsession as part of the package. They looked at each other, and suddenly both were laughing, the absurdity of trying to logic their way through emotion, the impossibility of their situation, the certainty that they'd try anyway. Yes, they said simultaneously. The kiss was different this time, not urgent with almost loss, but deep with promise and commitment. They made love on the couch, slow and thorough, mapping each other like territory they'd return to again and again. Later, wrapped in a thermal blanket because the lab was always too cold for human comfort, Neera asked the question Ava had been avoiding, tell me what it costs. Being elite. Being the person everyone calls when the situation is impossible. Ava was quiet for a long moment. It costs connection. Normal relationships are hard when you can't talk about work, when you disappear for months, when you come back with new scars and nightmares you can't explain. It costs innocence, I've done things, seen things, that I can never unknow. It costs certainty, every mission could be the last one, and you learn to live with that calculation constantly running in the background. And yet you continue, Neera observed. Why? Because someone has to. Ava's voice was simple, honest. Because I'm good at it, and it matters. Because there are people like you, brilliant, kind, making the galaxy better through knowledge, who deserve to do that work without fear. Warriors exist so scholars can think. Protectors exist so creators can create. In Lyrian philosophy, we have a concept, Kalvasha, the balance between sword and scroll. Neera shifted to face her. We believe that a complete civilization needs both. Warriors who understand the value of what they protect. Scholars who respect the cost of their safety. You embody that balance, Ava. You're not just a weapon, you're a weapon that understands what's worth preserving. When did you become so wise about warrior philosophy? Ava teased.